Welcome to Shit Talks, a creative platform created by Chicago Votes designed to uplift organizers, youth activists, and creatives for discussions around important social, political, cultural, and economic issues. This episode is being brought to you in collaboration with Healthy Hood.
Shit Talks, episode 1, take 1.
With the constant changes being implemented by both local and federal government, new policies that disenfranchise marginalized communities, and the defunding as well as dismantling of local and federal programs, it's hard to keep hope alive these days. It's especially hard for young creatives trying to navigate the world while maintaining their creative fire. Today, I'm joined by 4 amazing creatives here to tell their story on how they revolutionize hope and leverage resistance in today's trying times. Please welcome to the show, Alice Bortel, Shekinah, Trinity Sutton, and AJ Davis. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you all. I know you all very well, especially with the work that you've done both in and outside of Chicago Votes. But to the people who might not be familiar with what you do, what is your creative medium? Where are you from? And how'd you get started with that?
Well, I'll kick it off. My creative medium is photography and music. I started with music when I was about 5 years old. That just grew into a love of media in general. I'm from Minneapolis, and I'm moving to Chicago full-time in August, and I go to school at Columbia. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Shekinah Lee. I'm a model and beauty influencer born and raised in Chicago.
Hi, I'm Trinity Sutton. I am from Chicago. My creative mediums are graphic design, creative director, and I'm a social media strategist.
Hello everybody, my name is AJ Davis. I'm from Gulfport, Mississippi, and my creative medium will be clothing.
And so, Alice, you started photography. You've been doing it for about 3 to 4 years now, and you said that you love capturing the essence of people. What does that mean to you?
I think just capturing just moments you don't get to see very often. I think people being their best and truest selves, whatever that may mean to them. Just them to the max. Yeah.
I feel like photography allows you to get comfortable being in the public eye and like being in front of an audience, even if the audience is not like right in front of you. Shekinah, you're very familiar with being in the public eye because you started modeling when you were just 10 years old.
Yeah.
So you've been in front of an audience, you're comfortable with like the stage, and you're also a pastor's kid.
Yes.
And you also were a dancer in college. So how was being in front of the public eye at a very young age, how did that shape you as a person?
Yeah, it became my norm. That's why I think that it's so easy for me to do it now. Seeing my dad in front of an audience every week, giving a sermon every week. My mom also was in front of an audience. It just became normal to me. It was never something that I was scared of or taboo. I would be up in front of the same audience. So I look at every audience as that audience. That audience was made up of my family and my community, which most of our audiences are. They're our family and our community. So I'm not scared of it. I don't look at it as that. I just look at it as a way to express myself in front of people who may never get the chance to meet me up close.
Expression is such an important factor in not just being a model, but just being a creative in general. AJ, I know for you specifically, you started thrifting when you were in high school, and then that sort of led you into selling clothes, and then you started designing during the pandemic. Take me through that. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I've always been a person who never wants to look like anybody else. So the thrift store kind of afforded me that opportunity. On top of it was, a little bit more, I could say more money, I would say that. I wasn't working with like some big budget to go shopping. And then once I got to college, I continued to thrift and I found new places where I can find like really cool things. And I was like, hey, this is so cool, I have to sell it to somebody or let somebody else see it, because I would find so many things that weren't in my size. And so after that, once I graduated, went to grad school, the pandemic happened, and we were all like shut down. And I was still trying to figure out how to tailor my clothes, because I used to wear a lot of suits and I wanted them to fit right. And from there, I just was like, oh my goodness, I can make whatever I want if I just, try to sew. And that's kind of how it all started.
You're very multifaceted in that sense. You're not just a designer, you're a stylist, and you're an upcycler as well. Trinity, you're also very familiar with being a multifaceted creative. You're a graphic designer, you're a creative director, amongst other things. So how do all those things tie into your brand?
What was important for me growing up is that I was passionate about so many different things, and I felt like people were trying to confine myself in a box, not even just society, but the own pressures I put on myself. And so going to college, I did a complete 180. I said I was gonna go to FAMU and be an engineer. Girl, I was never good at math. Like, that wasn't gonna happen. And, I found my way at Columbia being a graphic designer and an artist. And from that point on, I told myself to try everything. Try everything that I'm passionate about or that I have the slightest interest in. And that gave me the ability to, create a community that has passion in so many different things as well, and that we can relate to not being just one thing. So for me, it was always just about expressing so many different versions of myself to the world.
And in doing so, community, allowing that to be a foundation for you, I feel like sets the tone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of setting the tone and community, everyone on the stage with me right now had some type of involvement in last year's Chicago Votes Give a Shit Fall 2024 fashion show. So how did you all first get involved with Chicago Votes, and how did that relationship with Chicago Votes grow over time?
I was recommended the fashion show by my friend. I had maybe once or twice brought up how I was interested in walking a runway, and then she just sent me the application. She said, I think you could get into this. I was like, okay, sure, But I got in, and it was just the greatest experience. I've met so many great and wonderful people, and it gave me a lot of confidence in myself, and who I am, and figure out how to articulate who myself is to others. Yeah.
And Alice, this was actually your first runway show, actually.
Yes, it was.
Right. So what place are you in right now in terms of your confidence as a model? How do you feel now?
As a model, I'm 100% confident. I don't want to walk like anybody else. I just want to walk like me. And, if it makes me happy, if anything makes you happy, then just do it, Yeah.
I know for some of you, Shekinah, this was not your first rodeo at all.
No,
Matter of fact, you've
not.
been all around the world, basically all around the globe at this point. You were in
Yeah.
New York Fashion Week, amongst other things.
Yeah.
I know you first got your start in 2022 in
Yes.
Blake Martin's Black Women's Expo.
Yes.
So with all your modeling experiences, why was this show different for you?
It was different because I had never done something for a cause. I had never done a fashion show that was based around community. That was the basis of it. This was different because it's a free show. Most fashion shows that I've done in the industry, they're not free. They're very high ticket. And it was also a paid show. I don't know if I can say that on here, but it was also...
You absolutely can.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As a model, a lot of us do a lot of collaborations, and if you're an artist, collaborations don't come with a budget usually. And so seeing this show, and it was paid, I was like, this is a great opportunity to also stand up for a cause. I'm born and raised in Chicago. My community is important to me, so that's how it was different, and I absolutely love the show. My relationship with Chicago Votes has definitely grown. All of us kind of became a family after the show. We would hang out outside of the show, so that was, a benefit to my life community-wise. But then also now, with this year, being a model coordinator for the new group, it's very exciting because I get to come behind the scenes and see the other side and see how you guys put it on. So I love Chicago Votes show.
Absolutely. And you've actually said before that everything doesn't have to be transactional. Everything
Absolutely.
doesn't have to be just a give and take.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you to kind of be back in this way, ushering in this new cohort as someone who was just a part of our show last year?
Yeah, I said that, and I believe that. But honestly, I feel like this year, I'm giving back. Even though my relationship with Chicago Votes wasn't transactional, it was definitely just something from the heart. Even though it was a paid show, I know I'm kind of contradicting myself. But I feel like I'm giving back through being a model ambassador or coordinator this year, just because, like I said, I've never been on this side, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and I have a lot of tips to give, and so I just want to help.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember you, Trinity, your involvement in the show was kind of unique as well, because we modeled together when we went to school together at Columbia.
Yes.
And so that was very interesting, because I invited you, actually, do you remember, to the spring 2024 show, and you came and you
absolutely.
sat front
Front
row.
row.
And I was like, you should think about getting involved in our next show whenever we decide to have that. And so you got involved with us in that sense. And you said that being in the Chicago Votes fashion show meant representing a voice that can't be ignored. Take me through that. That's deep.
Absolutely. I think having so many young people in the room like that all at once was it's kind of rare these days, especially coming at a place where so much was going on. I mean, that was right before the election. So seeing that many young people come together and come for a cause like that shows that we are capable of coming together united as one for, create change. And so for me, just being a part of Chicago Votes, I mean, I remember I was part as a model before you had asked me. And then throughout, our rehearsal sessions, I was like, you know what? I need to bring this to Columbia. I think this is a great way for students to get involved after, they graduate, so they have something, to go by if they want to learn more about, civic, engagement. So I brought it to the school. Everybody seemed to loved it, and I was like, I really love this organization and what it represents. And then afterwards, I just started to realize there are different ways that you can get involved. I always say that getting involved doesn't have to be as grand. The small things matter too. So I just really enjoyed my time here at Chicago Votes, being a part of the C space where so many creatives are coming together and just, talking about what they're working on, or just networking with one another and be like, hey, come to this Pilates event next week, like just meeting new friends. So it's just been a great way to create community amongst, young people as well. And so I value that, especially in my time in my life. Community is everything for me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Please.
I wanted to piggyback off of what you just said, that the show happened right before the election. The way that we all came together for the election and that Chicago Votes provided a space for us to all be together, I remember that night vividly. And I don't know how much worse it would have been, my experience would have been with the results and everything if I wasn't around this community. Like, this community on that night was just so uplifted in the midst of what feels like chaos and what may sometimes still feel like chaos. I don't know that if without Chicago Votes and that community that I would have been able to have the same experience. So I thank Chicago Votes for that and this fashion show for bringing us together.
Absolutely. Can we give it up for the fashion show one time? Because those are very important experiences also. Great point about the election and how we uplift the election for every fashion show, and that being tied into our brand at Chicago Votes. AJ, you specifically curated your own collection during the show. The collection was actually called All Tied Up.
Yes.
What did that collection mean to you? What did it stand for? How did that relate to your brand?
Okay, yeah, so I probably forgot to mention this, but I do run a brand called Fool's Gold where I sell and upcycle clothes. So Tre had reached out to me the year prior at an event where I was selling clothes, and I was like, I'm not too sure about that. So I think this kind of goes back to like how we spoke on being multi-hyphenated. This really kind of gave me the confidence to add that hyphen of a designer, because this was my second show, and so I was just like, how to go about this, what do I want to express through clothing, because that's kind of what I think about when I'm approaching some of these things. And I named that collection All Tied Up because I'm a black man and I'm from the South, so I kind of see the system. I've seen how the system has eating people up and spitting them out, especially ones that look just like me. And so that was kind of like a notion to that. And it was also a thing of, as I've been growing, it's like I'm coming out of this super corporate mindset and understanding that it's okay to be more freely creative. And that was part of what this collection was to show, that, hey, you can take these business casual pieces, you can use things like ties that are such a staple in this corporate regime, and you can make them into something else. And so that was like the whole premise of that particular portion of the show. And then it kind of just go right into the theme, unfortunately, of like how what we're dealing with right now with the current administration and things of that nature. So I really wanted to express that through clothing.
And it was fire, and you did absolutely that. The Chicago Votes fashion show uplifted the election, as well as Chicago Votes' voter guide that was designed by myself, our team, and other local creatives, while celebrating the culture and uplifting democracy. So with your involvement in the show and seeing where you are now in your creative journeys, what's the most surprising thing, or I guess the most challenging thing that you all learned about yourself in that process?
That is a fantastic question. I think the most challenging and also inspiring part for me was hearing everyone's stories. I'm very inspired by you, Tre, and all my friends and models in the fashion show, and just hearing their stories and the worlds they've built from the ground up themselves. So that was really inspiring to me, just seeing what one person can do and what a community can do. I think the most challenging part at the same time is just motivating yourself to do that. You know, because, I mean, motivation means something different to everybody, but it's so worth it just giving yourself that one big push and stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's so rewarding. And, you know, you can, just having, again, like just having my friends, my models, and all my creatives just really inspired me to do that, and yeah.
And when we casted you all, the original intention was not for us to become like a family afterwards, but I guess it just like naturally just kind of happened. Shekinah, you talked about that with the foundation being community. What's something surprising that happened to you?
I think leaving that show, especially in my industry, modeling can be very rigid. It can be very about just how you look and not what you bring to the space. And so I noticed in the Chicago Vote show, we all brought something different. None of us looked the same, none of us walked the same, how you said. And so I really took that into the rest of my career. Like, every show doesn't have to be cookie cutter. We don't all have to be super thin, super tall, one color. You can look however you want to look and really rock the show and like still bring something to the table. So I think that that's something I left the Chicago Votes fashion show experience learning.
There's a beauty in recognizing the intersectionality that comes with Chicago models and just models in general and being able to uplift that. Trinity, I know you've been very transparent about your sort of negative experiences with being a model outside of Chicago Votes. Is there anything that surprised you about being a part of this show that you didn't necessarily get from other shows?
Yeah, I want to piggy off of what Shekinah just said as far as like the modeling industry can be very rigid. And for me, I think what was surprising but also challenging was that learning that I am worthy of being in these spaces. Especially I'm 5'4", and I'm a little curvier, so I'm already given like the no right off the bat, like no, we don't want you here. I don't even know why you even showed up. Like an example, I went to one casting call a couple months ago, and same producers that I'm used to seeing over and over again, and I remember going in like, you got this. And I felt really confident going in. I did the walk, and the producer says, can you walk less angry? And to me, that triggered me a little bit. It's just like, why are you saying walk less angry to a black person or a black woman at that? And so hearing that, something just clicked in me, and learning that I'm not worthy of being here. They do not want me here. It doesn't matter what I do, how I walk. This is not the space for me where I can feel valued. So I think going into Chicago Votes fashion show was completely different, because I walked in and immediately I felt like I was at home. I don't know how to describe it. It was just a feeling of like, this is where I belong. This is where people will hear me. They will value me as, a person and a model. And I feel like I'm being seen and heard at the same time. So it was a completely different experience. And now moving forward, I feel as though I cannot do another casting or be a part of another show any type of way. Knowing my worth as a model, knowing that I know what I have to bring, I can't just walk in and be like, it is what it is. Maybe I should never model after somebody gives me, the slightest negative comment. Understanding that, no, I am worthy of being in these spaces. Either take me as I am or don't take me at all. So I think that was very important for me to learn. And I think I'm so grateful that Chicago Votes gave me that clarity that I needed.
Yeah, do you mind if I piggyback off of what Trinity said? Yeah, like for myself, like being trans, like you kind of have to be on your guard a lot. And when I first walked in, just being like greeted with smiles and warmth, it was just like Trinity was saying, like I was at home. And everyone is worthy of being in any space, and yeah. That's about it.
Word. That was beautiful. A young creative by the name of AJ once said, you never know how your creation impacts someone else because you're putting that hope in someone else's hands. Is there anything that surprised you about yourself or maybe the models you worked with at the show?
One was the sense of community that came from the show. It was just like everybody kind of reiterated. It was just very welcoming. And that was only my second time designing in the show, so I did have a little bit of nerve behind it, like, ooh, like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and things of that nature. But what surprised me was, one, I was able to execute my process a lot faster than I thought, which was really exciting for me because as an upcycler, I have to not only like draw all my designs, I have to go source the material, I have to make sure it fits all the models properly, I have to do fittings, adjustments, so on and so forth. So sometimes before biting the bullet and be like, hey, I wanna do something, I can like really overstimulate myself before I even get started, because sometimes creation for me is very chaotic. And so going through that, being able to parse through that process and those emotions and what I want to evoke out of that really took some time, but I was really like proud of myself because I was able to like get it down. But I also think that's because the community was so supportive, like, and I brought pieces and people like, oh, I like this, I like that. I'm like, oh, you like, yeah, you like, you know. So once you start seeing like, you know, how people are responding to what you create, it's something that just kind of keeps you going. So like, I feel like the group itself kind of helped inspire me to finish out everything I was doing. I know like the day before, Shekinah was like a last minute model for me, but I was like, look, I got this one more piece, and you like, you gonna walk it down, you know what I'm saying? So she got on out there and she did what she needed to do, but that wouldn't have come if I wasn't like comfortable around everybody just to speak and just say, hey, could you help me out in this way? So.
With the current administration and federal government attempting to rapidly dismantle and restructure our country, what impact does that have on young artists and specifically young creatives like yourself?
I think the goal of the current administration is to put people down. And I think our greatest form of resistance is just to not back down, you know, just keep being yourself and being your truest self. Because I think they want to turn us against each other, but us as a community is stronger than a few handful of billionaires, politicians, whatever. I don't think the governments should, like, people shouldn't be afraid of their governments, but the governments, like, should be conscious, I guess. I won't say afraid, but like take into account of what their people can do when they unite together, and, you know, we the people and all.
Because we are the people, and there's more of us than there are of them anyway.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
Exactly.
You want to add to that, Shekinah?
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, because God has not given me the spirit of fear, I'm a little afraid. And it's not fear of any man or fear of any rule or law. It's fear of me not being able to have a long-standing career in doing what I want to be doing. There was one point in time where I'm like, this is America. I can do what I want to do. I can be a model. I can sing. I can act. I can do whatever I want to do for however long I want to do it. And there's always opportunity here to do it freely. I don't have to, you know, box myself into one thing. But now with the current administration and with the color of my skin and being a woman, being a black woman, there's a little bit of fear that, okay, I need to find something. And coming from black households, there's a lot of that put on you, like, you need to find you a good job. You need to get you some insurance. You need to, like, lock down and do that one thing.
You need to be doing something.
You need to be doing something. Get you a government job or something. But, like, I don't want to. And I want to be able to be a creative, and I want to be able to be a creative for the rest of my life, because that's what brings me joy. So it's a little bit of fear under this current administration that I won't be able to do that.
Trinity, as someone who is about to enter their last year of undergrad, do you carry those same sentiments, or do you kind of have a different perspective?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, as a black woman, I'm always going to be carrying something. Like, there's always going to be something weighing on my back. I fear, you know, as Erykah Badu says, I'm going to be a bag lady. And I don't want to be. But that's just, unfortunately, the world that we live in. But I also think, as a creative, that in my work, I really try to listen and represent voices that are often that are often overlooked. I remember growing up and just feeling so misunderstood by so many people in my life, and my art kind of gave me that outlet to express myself without saying anything. So I think understanding how powerful we are as creatives and understanding that we have the power in our hands, truly. If you really think about it, everybody's an artist in their own way. You know, it may not be painting or writing or singing. You know, I look at people who, you know, work in, grocery stores as artists, or people who just do different things. Everything that we do is art. People who make food, that's art. You know what I'm saying? And looking at that from a different perspective has changed the way I look at the world, and it gives me still a little bit of hope. And so that's why I keep going in my creative journey, because I truly believe that we can, come together to really change our world, our community. It is possible. We've seen it with our own eyes. There might be hiccups in the road, yes, certainly. But I think overall it's important to understand that as long as we keep showing up for ourselves, we have the power to also show up for others as well.
Absolutely. You, Mr. AJ, I know you in the past cited your mom as your biggest inspiration, and you were on your way to becoming a full-time brand person with your brand Fool's Gold. Do you find some hope in this administration, in this time that we're in?
Hope in administration, not so much. Hope as a creative, yes. I think that creation in itself is a form of revolution, especially when we're working with such limited resources. If you think about what I do with upcycling, I'm taking pieces that people have discarded, they no longer see a life in, and bringing something to it. And then also in that creation process, that evokes the hope. I'm like putting out something that I'm like, this makes me happy, maybe it'll make you happy too. And I think that transfer of energy is really important when you're trying to like create hope for not only yourself, but your community and other creatives, because in a time right now where everything is like no, negative, everything is like backward steps, the one thing that we can always do is create. And I like how you kind of formed that with everybody being an artist. I think about creation in that same capacity. There might be small things you're creating. It's not necessarily always a big project, but you might be doing something small. You might be creating hope. You might be creating a group of friends that all have similar interests. So I think creation is very far-reaching, and just to be able to create no matter what the circumstances are, I mean, that's what our people have always done. And I think right now it's like we need each other more than we've ever really needed each other, because we have so many people at the top that don't really care about everybody else.
Absolutely. Start small, because you got to start somewhere. And once a snowball is not built just with at the final step. You got to start
Get
small.
it rolling.
There.
Once you get the rolling.
Alice, you said taking a small idea and running with it as much as possible. Do you still identify with those small ideas, especially as a creative?
Yeah, I got that idea I was hearing an interview from Jordan Peele, and he was talking about his movie Nope, and just how like weird the idea sounded to him in his head, but he didn't give up, and he just kept going at it and tinkering with it and working with it. And I look at that with my art, because as much as you're doing your creative whatever for other people, at the end of the day, it should make you happy. And because it's about you, it's your art, it's not other people's art, it's your art. So I think I love just as I'm falling asleep, just writing down as many notes, ideas as at like whatever for however long, and just see how weird I can get with whatever idea I have. Because it's important to be unique, because that reflects on yourself. I also wanted to, again, piggyback off what Trinity said earlier. Trinity has great ideas. I love it.
Everybody's so creative.
Yeah, I love it. Something that gives me hope is, thinking to myself way, way in the future, if I have like grandchildren, whatever, talking to them about this current time, and they ask what I did, I don't want to say, well, I didn't do anything. I just sat around, because that's disappointing to them and to myself, and I just, that sucks. So just, art is a great form of resistance, and yeah.
Great caveat. So how are you all maintaining that resistance and revolutionizing that hope in these times? Like, how do you maintain your creative voice?
Well, for me, it's actually stepping away from my mediums, my art forms. I've learned reading and dancing have really helped me physically release that tension built up in my body. Reading has been such a great outlet for me to just kind of think about somebody else's problems, you know what I'm saying?
Because I got enough of my own. Okay.
And dancing, I mean, I think Tyler Creator, he just posted, you know, a new album and people are shocked. Like, he just came out with one. But he said that this album was designed for people to just dance. Stop thinking about being a meme or, you know, every time we go out, people, it's very like superficial. Like, people are literally just there for a photo op. But, you know, going out and just listening to music, dancing it, feeling the music is really important, especially as Black people. And we see it in the movie in Sinners. Music is very powerful. So understanding what that could do to your body and how, you know, that releases so much energy has been incredibly important to me and has been able, you know, has given me the gift to keep creating in a way. And it's just been very healing for my mental and my physical well-being. So that's how I keep going.
Absolutely. Worry about somebody else's problems for a second.
Yeah, and I think this kind of goes back, Shekinah, you mentioned how like creation just kind of becomes normal. So I think it's a part of my normal day-to-day life. And if I look back on just like me getting to where I'm at right now, even with the hard parts of my life, I was still creating. If I wasn't trying to create for profit or create for somebody else, I was creating for myself. And I think that it's become something that if I don't have it, my body might tweak out. Just like being activist for me. Like if I can't go on a walk or move my body, I'm just like, something feels off. And I think it's the same way with creating. If I'm not trying to do something creative, not necessarily with clothing, but that you can create so many different things with art, music, just playing around with stuff, you know? I think that just keeps me going. It's just become like an innate part of my life that I don't really think I could live without, to be honest.
Absolutely. To go off of that point, I remember you saying, Shekinah, that you are not yourself without being creative. So how do you maintain your voice? Specifically, I remember you saying, finding balance between finding something that works and staying below the fray. That's powerful.
Yes. Well, I'm going to start with the original question.
Yes.
I maintain my hope through my faith. That's a big part of my life. And so that's what I do to maintain my own hope. And so I feel like during this time, and me still wanting to be a creative and being known as a creative, I found a balance in between creativity and intentionality. Me being able to bridge the gap between my faith and the industry that I work in, and being able to use my faith, I also create Christian content. I feel like I've had to under this administration and in this time. So I've kind of fused my creativity with what works for me. So like I said, finding something that works. For me, it's my faith, and for others, it may be their faith as well. And so as we all try to maintain hope, but people know me for being a model, maybe I could be a model who motivates you through faith. Or maybe I can be a creative and you know me for showing you what I put on my lashes, but then also I tell you how when I cry it off, which mascara doesn't come off because I'm using my faith. Like I've tried to just bridge the gap and help people to maintain their hope and maintain their faith by also identifying with me through that way. And what I mean by staying below the fray is it kind of goes into that fear thing. And I hate to admit this because it feels so defeating sometimes. But as a Black woman, you have to move a certain way in this world. And you have to move a certain way with intentionality and with force and with drive. But then also, you don't want to make the wrong move. That can mess up everything that you've built. So that's what I mean by doing things with intentionality, but also staying below the fray. Because we all just want to make it. Like, at the end of the day, we all want to be able to do what we want to do, but we don't want to ruffle any feathers, which sometimes we should. But that's another conversation.
Okay, let's switch it up a little bit because I want to pick your brains a little bit on a certain topic. What's your hot take on a current pop culture trend?
Well, I guess I'll lead the way.
Go ahead, you seem ready.
Yeah, you know, I'll be having my thoughts. So as somebody who's like more in the fashion clothing space, I think that one of the things is that people just lack uniqueness. So many people look the same. And I think that's partially due to the algorithm feeding people, this is cool, this is nice, this is what's in. I feel like sometimes you really need to either detach or just find a sense of self where it's like, I think this is cool, I like this, so I'll do this or I'll wear this. Especially you see a lot of brands that have like similar aesthetics, different words. It's like, come on, big dog, you know what I mean? Like, switch it up a little bit. Like, there has to be something unique about you. I feel like every time you put on an outfit, you're conveying a message whether you realize it or not. And so many people their message is just follow. Just follow. And I think that people need to really find that uniqueness because that's what makes you you. you have to have your own voice, but how can you have that if you aren't doing anything that like says, this is me, here I am?
It's really one of the consequences of social media, like you were also saying, because once you see something like a bunch of people like this piece of clothing or like these shoes or like this trend, it's like everybody likes it now. But do you really like it, or do you like it because everybody else does?
Do you like it, or do you like it because you keep seeing it?
Right,
You know?
because it keeps being fed to you digitally and physically also.
I want to piggy off of what AJ just said, because I don't have a opinion about a particular pop culture. I'm on social media every day as a social media strategist, so it's tiring seeing the same thing over and over again. But I will say that pop culture can have its pros, but to take everything with a grain of salt. I think my grandmother used to say, everything that's glitter ain't always gold. And for me, it's just like, you can enjoy what's being put out there, but don't let it consume who you are. And I think that's where we get caught up when we see somebody who's, quote unquote, living the life that you want to live, because I think, I say that in quotations because everybody's life is different, and what God has planned for you is completely different from what they had planned for the next person. But we get so caught up in, what somebody else's has. But if you took social media away right now, can you name 5 things that you are very grateful to have right now in this moment? And it's better said than done, because I'm a person who's still working on it as well. But I think understanding that, what you have been gifted already makes you you as a person, and why would you want to be anybody else? So yeah, I think just understanding that, there are some things in pop culture that have been put out that I do enjoy, but then again, I still enjoy what I have to bring to the table as well.
That's word up too. Go ahead, Shekinah.
I think, kind of in like a grand scheme of things, kind of how AJ said, I think ignorance has become bliss a lot. In a lot of different ways. What comes to mind recently is these Labubus that everybody is buying. And a lot of people may not be, I'm serious, a lot of people may not be religious, but a lot of people are spiritual in their own way. And there's so much information around what these things stand for and stuff that has happened before and what they look like and what they embody. But like there are still people like bidding on these things to buy them and keep them on them at all times and have them in their rooms and buy them for friends. And it's like, ignorance is really bliss. Like, that's one example. But then some people don't watch the news because they don't want to, like, feed all of the bad stuff in. So it's like, that this stuff is happening with the little boo-boos. Like, what it stands for. That we're not being represented on the news and that black people are being killed at a higher rate than anyone else. That just anything that's happening, but we just like scroll past it and we're just like, oh, I don't care. Like, I just want to be in the trend. Like, I just want to go with the trend. So ignorance has really become bliss, but it's, in the long term, it's not. Like, being ignorant to anything is just, I feel like that's not beneficial to anybody for anything, because we're not learning. ChatGPT is like a huge thing, and I use ChatGPT all the time, so I'm not saying that we shouldn't use ChatGPT. I'm just saying it's feeding into our ignorance. Right. Like, we have to be more educated. We have to do the work ourselves to be educated. And when we know something, let's act like we know it and not just continue to go with the trend because it's a trend.
It's so easy to pick and choose how you want to use your activism these days with social media. Yeah. Alice?
Yeah, to piggyback off what you just said, like, I think a lot of people speak before they think,
Wake it up.
So
I don't think they heard you in the back. Like,
well, we won't go there, but
we can.
We can. But, this reminds me of a conversation I had with my mom and my sister. I won't say what it was about, but I was like, guys, you don't know what you're talking about. And, like, I told them all this information, that they didn't even know, because I think a lot of people look at, like, world events or a lot of things just surface value. We want everything quickly and fast, immediately, because we live in such a digital world where everyone's like so interconnected, and we just want everything right now.
It's all about that instant gratification.
Exactly, but I don't think we allow ourselves to ever really be bored a lot of the time, like putting down your phone or whatever it is and just actually use your brain and think.
Give me a piece of advice, anything like, it doesn't have to be super long, but just give me like a piece of advice you would give to young creators right now trying to find their voice in a world where they're also trying to revolutionize hope and leverage resistance.
Just don't stop being yourself, honestly, because why would you want to surround yourself with people who don't like what you do? You know, I think there's so many negative Nancys online and in person. And, I've made pieces of art where, like, my teachers or my peers are like, well, I don't like it. I'm like, and that's okay.
It wasn't for you to like.
It wasn't for you to like. But I think there's so much just blatant negativity and not critiquing, just saying I don't like it instead of I don't like it because, Yeah.
I would say, Trinity kind of mentioned this earlier, but try everything. Like, try as many things as you can, because you may be told that you're good at this one thing, and so you just do that one thing, and then you wait and you don't find something else that you love that actually brings you joy until far down the line and you're deep in this one thing. So try as many things as you can, and you'll discover new things about yourself, about the people around you, what communities you fit into, what communities you like. So don't just pigeonhole yourself into one thing. Try as many things as you can.
I would say always show up for you. Always show up for yourself. And it can be very challenging, and you want to feel like you want to be there or do everything all at once, and then you end up neglecting yourself and what you want to do and what you're passionate about. Understanding that you have to be your own best friend is something very important. And I want to say that to all creatives, and not even just creatives, just people in general. I mean, we see it now with Tracy Ellis. She's on her solo travel trip, and she's reminding people that it's okay to be however years old and don't have kids and, not having a partner. And it's okay it's a luxury to just be. And I think understanding that is very important. And I think when you understand yourself, you're able to understand, other people around you, and understand your creativeness more and explore that and lean into that more. So always show up for you and show up authentically as well.
Great points, you guys. I think I have 2 points. The first one is do not compare yourself to anybody, because that is, like they say, comparison is a thief of joy, and your steps are ordered for your own journey. Like, it doesn't matter what your best friend's doing, your brother, your cousin. It really doesn't matter. You can look to them for maybe support and guidance, but don't compare your journey to anybody else's. And then I would say the second thing would be to build a community, because it's so hard when you're around people who are only saying negative things about what you're doing. They're only downplaying everything. But when you start getting around people that's like, oh, that's a good idea, you should probably try that. Or have you thought about how to make this better or bigger? You need people that are going to push the limits for you a little bit, because sometimes you can get stuck in your own mind. And if you're creative and you're showing this in so many different capacities, you need that community to really uplift you and help pushing you when everything else is kind of going to wit's end. So,
Thank you all for those beautiful perspectives. Can we get a round of applause one more time for this beautiful panel? We're going to take it to the audience and see what questions they have for this lovely panel.
Hi, you guys. My question was, where do you guys see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
You know what? That's hard, because I don't know where I see myself tomorrow.
That part.
Right. But honestly, I grow so much every year, and seeing myself change and my passions change differently, I honestly just see myself being very true to who I am, but just, not where I was when I was 21. And I think it's important, because we're always like, we want to do this, this, and that. And yes, I want to do all those things. I have so many different things that I'm passionate about. But honestly, I just want to see myself to continue to grow every year, showing up for me and just growing everywhere that, I put myself in.
I'd say in 3 to 5 years, I just want to be full-time me. Like, right now, I don't get to be me, the most genuine version of myself. When I go to work, I have to be work Shekinah. When I'm At a show, I gotta be fashion show Shekinah. And then when I come home, I get to be my creative self in every different medium that I use. But in 3 to 5 years, I don't wanna be on anybody else's time, doing anything else that anybody else has asked me to do. I wanna be able to just be full-time me. Yeah.
Yeah, I see myself still here in Chicago. Full-time me. I agree with everything everyone has already said. Just surrounded by even more creatives still creating. I hope I can get back into filmmaking, because that's what I originally wanted to go to college for. But I also want to, by that point, have, gotten to a place where I can help people be their true selves.
Yeah, I agree with all of you guys. I think that is an extremely difficult question because I am extremely indecisive. But I do just hope that I'm still able to create things that bring a smile to somebody's face like they bring to mine. So my end goal is just to keep creating and just see where it takes me.
My question is, what do you guys think the biggest misconception people have about creatives is?
I would say that we're not intelligent. A lot of us up here are in school or have been to school. I got a degree in something that I was passionate about professionally, and I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things. And so people see me as a model and they think, oh, she's just a pretty face, or she's just good at looking good in front of the camera. But no, like, I'll eat you down in a conversation about absolutely anything. I love to read, I love to research, I love to learn. And so that's a misconception I think a lot of people have about people who do things that they're passionate about that doesn't have any educational background. They feel like we can't have a substantial conversation, but everybody up here absolutely can, and every creative absolutely can.
I guess mine would be that, like, I create full time. So by degree, I'm an engineer, so that's what I do from a 9 to 5. But with my business, I'm still able to, like, be out there and be a face and be in different spaces. And that's not always the case for everybody. And it's really a balancing act that I'm still trying to navigate even to this day. And I'm very grateful for, like, the background I have in engineering, but it's something that I don't want it to, like, put me in a box where I can only do that. I want to create more and share more of what I want to do, so I can really lean into, like, all those multi-hyphenated things that I can really be as a person.
I think, and I want to kind of change your question a little bit just because I'm going off of what I see from society as a whole. But I think people have such a different perspective on artists because they don't know the definition of art, and they think art is solely one thing. And even me, before I even went to college, I thought art was like painting, and that was it. No, I was like so far gone, and I didn't have a clue of what being an artist, a creative, actually was. And even from like, you go get food and you see a logo, who made that? A graphic designer did. You know what I'm saying? Knowing who made this, this production, creatives, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think people understand, the definition of what art is. And once people understand that, then we can have a conversation and, kind of reform these stereotypes of what they think we are. I think I'm just tired as a whole of society thinking one thing about us as a whole, but yeah.
I think a big misconception is that you need to have like a lot of money, something like that. I think a great artist can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter, your class, gender, like color of your skin, doesn't matter. Even if you don't make the most profound impact on the world, you made an impact on somebody, at least one person, and that to me is enough. I think one of my favorite artists, Daniel Johnston, would just hand out tapes to people at the McDonald's he worked at, and he went to go on to inspire my favorite artist of all time, Kurt Cobain, and I just think that's so beautiful. Art is such an interconnected world, and something means something to somebody. Doesn't matter how big or small. And yeah.
Hi. You all are actually so inspiring. Just wanted to say that, but I wanted to ask if you all can just describe your brand as a creative using one word.
Liberating.
Loud.
Unique.
Hopeful.
Hey everybody. So my question is, what do y'all think is better? So working full time and then working on your art on the side, or doing your art full time but not really getting the income that you desire? So yeah.
I would say do what your heart desires. I can't really say to do one thing or the other because that's not my place. You know what I'm saying? But I will say that I've done them both. And I did feel more myself when I was kind of working corporate and having my art on the side. But that's me. That was my level of comfortability. That's not the same for everybody else. And then sometimes I felt like the corporate world was draining me so much that I couldn't put all into my artwork. So I love your question, but it's hard to say choose one or the other. Do what you feel you are called to do.
I'd say take it day by day. There's some days where it's like, I got to get my chores done, whatever it is, But I think no matter if it's full-time or part-time, depending on the day, practice, practice, practice. Just hone your craft, and then if you keep practicing, you're just gonna find out what your art form means to you in its truest and most fullest potential.
I have two perspectives. I think kind of how Trinity said, do what your heart wants and pray about it, see what God tells you to do. But also to play the devil's advocate, I would say work full-time or part-time, have a corporate job or have a job and work on your creative afterwards. But treat that corporate job or that 9 to 5 as your plan B. Use your creativity as your plan A, even though it may get less time during the day. That's what I do. I'm a model. But then I go and I work for this person. Even though I may be there for 8 hours and I only get to model for 4, what I do is I model. So treat that corporate job or that 9 to 5 as your fuel to be able to keep being creative. Because to be honest, we still got to eat. We got to survive. You have to live. And in this economy, you have to work, unfortunately, until you don't have to work anymore. And so go to that job every day like, I'm doing this so I can pay to get to this. I'm doing this so I can add something to my creativity. Don't let it consume you, because that's what happened for me, for sure. Like you said, that 9 to 5 will burn you out when that's your primary focus. But when your primary focus is your 5 to 9, when you get home, you'll have a little bit more motivation to go to work and get that fuel for what you want to do.
I definitely agree with what they say. I think that this is a season where I'm very much so in that. Because I've been to school for like so long, I feel like I want to make a profit off of my degree. But at the same rate, sometimes I do feel very depleted because I'm like, dang, they get the best hours of the day. When the sun is shining, I can go run errands. I can't do nothing but be at work. So I say from like a financial standpoint, it's really beneficial to have a job. But I will say that like as far as energy, it's very draining at the same time. So it's something where you have to figure out what works best for you. And I'm still trying to work on having those two coexist and me not being like at the detriment and struggling. Because most of the time I'm just tired, or I don't got enough hours in the day. But at the same rate, it's like you have to find a balance that works for everything. And I think it has been very beneficial for me because I can also go into my creations without the thought of worrying about monetary gain. I've just been in a space where like, let's just create whatever's on your heart, get it out, get your thoughts out into the world. Don't worry about any type of benefits or things you're gonna get from it, because I get that from my job, so.
I want to add one more thing too, but put yourself in places, find jobs where you know it can push your creativity. I think it's important if you want to have the jobs for financial stability and work on create a platform on the side. Really, I think I started working at my school. My school is like my first like real job. Well, I guess job that gave me more responsibility, and I was their like graphic designer. And was it draining? Yes, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of explore my creativity more in a different way because they gave me so much free will. And so that was a win-win type of situation. And then when I got home, you know, I was like, okay, my job is over. 5 o'clock is here. I'm done. Now I can focus on the project that I really want. You know what I'm saying? But I still had so many creative juices flowing from the project I was working on at work that it transferred over into my personal passion.
Yeah, I just want to add a little snippet. I think that it's also very important to learn from your job, even if you don't like it. That's something that I'm really learning and just working on in general. But like, think about the operational processes, running a business. Those are all things you need if you're going to be an independent creative. Honestly, truly, creation is probably the easiest part. You're still running a business. And so you have to understand the premise of what goes into having a good business, what goes into being productive every day, what goes into you being able to create at this high rate. You have to do something every day. You have to have processes that are set in place that can be productive for you.
Can I also add a snippet? Yeah. I think it's also important to remind yourself that your job that's separate from art, it's not forever, you know. And as long as you keep at it and just keep honing your craft, you know, there's only room for you to grow, you know. So it's important to remind yourself that.
This has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm so inspired by you all. In the words of Keke Palmer, I need to spend more time with you. Y'all are everything. Alice, Shekinah, Trinity, and AJ, thank you so much for being here on Shit Talks today. Can I get one more round of applause, please, for everything? And this has been Shit Talks, Revolutionizing Hope and Leveraging Resistance.
Cut.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Shit Talks. You can follow at Chicago Votes on all social media platforms or visit chicagovotes.com to keep up with our events, programming, and upcoming initiatives. This episode has been brought to you by Chicago Votes in association with Healthy Hood.